everybody, Cindy A. Lewis here. Welcome to Crafting Therapy. Today we're going to continue to work on this mermaid junk journal. We're actually going to do a hidden stitch to sew in the signatures. So I've already selected all my signatures and put them in order. And so what I need to do now is I need to sew these in. But instead of sewing them in where you can see them through the spine, we're going to do a hidden stitch, and I'm going to show you how to do that. Super easy. You do just need some book cloth, and I will show you what that looks like. So let's get started. Unlike this journal that we sewed these signatures into the spine directly, in this one, we're not going to be able to see the stitch, hence it's called a hidden stitch. But we are going to glue the signatures in with some book cloth. So that's what we've got right here. And this is book cloth. This is linen book cloth. It's sort of a rough surface with a paper backing. It's really strong and durable. And so this is what we sew the signatures into, and then this glues into the internal spine. So what I need to do is I need to measure how big I need this book cloth to be. And it all depends on the width of your spine and how tall it is. So this spine, we're going to bring the book cloth to here. We can always cover this a little bit with some washi or ribbon or something, but we're gonna go, well, let's go 2 inches. Maybe that will help us to go all the way into the spine. Maybe we'll just measure 2.5 so we can come over a little bit. And then the height is going to be 9 inches. So what I do before I do any of that is I'm going to cut my piece of graph paper. I'm trying to find my pen. I'll just use this so you can see. This Sharpie is really nice and strong. So, you know, for you to see. All right, so we're going to take this graph paper. We're going to cut 2.5 inches. And I know that this won't be the whole, let's not do 2.5 for this. Let's do about 1.5, because this needs to sink down into, so we're going to come here and we're going to go 1.5 will be here. All right, then we need 9 inches. So I'm trying to take off this little extra here. So we're just going to show this is 9 here to here. All right, so now I'm going to cut this out, and then I'm going to cut out a piece of this book cloth to be 2.5 by 9 inches. All right, I've cut my book cloth to 2.5 by 9 inches. It's going to give me a little over the edge of each side, which is okay. Then I've cut the actual spine to be 1.5 inches, because that's where we're going to be sewing into, right? So we need to have that exact. So again, to measure for your holes, you have to decide where you want them to be. This is just my book I use to punch my holes. So I'm going to fold this in half, right? And then this is going to be the middle. Then I'm going to fold this. Now, if you don't want it that far down, you don't have to. But I think it's good because your tassel and everything. So I think we would be all right to have our going by halves. All right. So now we know where we want it at the top and at the bottom and in the middle. Okay. Then to get my exact point, I fold my paper in half long ways, and then I can see there is my middle right there. And I know it's hard to see where the lines are, but where the folds are. but that is the middle, okay? And then that's going to be the same for this one and this one. So our holes will line up for the middle of our spine, but we have 3 signatures. So what I need to do is fold this side to the middle, like that. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same on this side, and then we'll get the placement for the other 2 signatures. Now when you get ready to sew into your hidden spine, I mean your book cloth for your hidden spine, then I'll show you how you do that. So we're going to line up our holes like this around that same line. Want to make sure that they are on the fold, and then right here and right here. So that's where our holes will be to sew into. Now we're going to measure them onto here. You can see right here is where we're going to sew into this book cloth instead of into that actual book spine. So fold this in half so you know where your middle is. Now you know where your middle is that way, and we're going to fold it again this way, just so that you know where that middle is. That middle is right there, and that's where you want this hole to be, so you know it's lining up. Now I like to use paper clips or some kind of clip, so I'm going to put that on here, and then that's how we're going to make our holes in both our book cloth and then our signatures. So this is where our first hole is going to be. So I use it all most of the time, and all is a tool like this. You can buy it at any craft store, Walmart. It's sharp on one end, and it will just punch through, and I use a book to protect my surface, and I just punch through that hole right there, and just make sure I have a nice hole where I can see. You can see on this side where that hole is. Maybe you can't see it as well, but we're gonna go ahead and make it a little bit bigger so you can see it. There you go. All right, then up here we're gonna do the same thing and punch that hole through. Now we're putting it in the middle of the book cloth, or book binding cloth. This linen, this is linen. All right, so now I have those 3 holes done. This is this one right here, which you can't see as well from this side, but it's right there. All right, so then I'm going to do the same thing for the other holes, making sure they line up and I'm in the right space, because I have my little hole punched or marked. So there's my next holes. So I want to make sure, get them lined up together. All right, there we go. All right, so then the next one, that one, this one. Okay, then our next hole here for the front signature, and then this one. And I know it's kind of hard to see with my hand in the way, but I will show you when I remove the graph paper. Graph paper is really helpful. You don't have to have it, but I like it. It helps me keep my lines. So now my book cloth has the 3 holes to sew my signatures in. You can see them on the back as well. Okay, now what we have to do is also take the signatures, the way that we put them together, and we need to punch the holes in the signatures. Then sewing them in is going to be a breeze. So you just decide which ones are going to be your front, which ones are going to be the middle, and we're going to start with the back one. So we're going to take this one. Oh, this is the middle one, but it's okay. We're going to go ahead and paper clip your signature pages together. And then we're going to put the graph paper in here and clip it in the middle so that we know where that middle is. And then we can punch the holes, not messing up anything that's already in there. Okay, so you can see this is the middle, and we're just going to take the awl and go through these pages as well. You can see it's going through the pages, so you just want to make sure you get through that middle, right? That kind of pulled, but all right. And then this one, you want to do the same thing and just punch through. Now going through 8 pages is kind of a lot. You just want to make sure you're going through all of them. And I just push down, and then you can see your holes there. So this one's ready. And let's go ahead and punch the others. So that one's the middle because that was my pages. And then this one, make sure they're all lined up. Again, use the clips. I just like to do that. And I'm just walking you through this pretty step by step so that you get the feel of exactly what we're doing here. And if you've already done hidden spines before, or you've sewn your pages in, you may just want to go to the end and see how it all looks put together. All right. But for those that haven't, I wanted to go ahead and run through all of these steps. So this is signature number 2, and we're almost done punching those holes. And see how important it is to have this graph paper or these holes already punched out, so you're not having to measure every single time that you go to do this, because you would be measuring every one of your signatures if you weren't using something to guide you, some kind of guide. All right, make sure if you have like a shorter page, that's where you want it to be when you go to sew in your make your holes. Okay, because once you've made them, you've made the holes. So okay, so we're just putting these on. Okay, now time for the graph paper, making sure that it is in the middle. And one of the things too, you want to make sure that it's the same height, because if you do get a different height, they may not line up in your actual junk journal. So just make sure you do that. Hidden signatures are really cool, and you just use a lot of glue to glue them in. That's pretty much it. So, all right. So here is the middle. And what I mean by glue, we're going to glue in that book binding. And that's where we glue in our signatures once we get them sewn into the book binding. All right, here we are. Now, this is going to be the back. So we don't need our graph paper anymore. We're ready for our book cloth. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to get your thread, which this is my thread I like to use. This is a waxed thread, and it sews in really easily into the pages, and I like it a lot. You can use other threads like embroidery floss or something, but this is the one that I like to use. So I measure my thread about 4 times per signature. So I just do one signature at a time to make sure I have enough thread. I don't like to overdo it, but I don't want to underdo it either. This is about a 4-inch decorative needle, and I like to use the longer needle because it goes through all the book or the spine or any of the pages that I need to. Then the other thing that I like to use is a piece of washi tape, and that just is my extra hand to hold my thread. So you'll see what I mean. So we're just gonna do really a plain pamphlet stitch and sew into the book cloth. So we're doing the back one, okay? So what we wanna do is line this up. And sometimes it is not easy to see where that hole is gonna line up. So let's just hold it for a second. We've got our pages, our signature all together with our paper clips. So I want to make sure that nothing moved. There we go. And this is the hole right here. So we're going to put that hole through this cloth as well as the pages and pull that in. So we're coming down through the middle of the signature. And I leave a nice tail there, and I use washi usually to hold it in place. Then what we have to do is hold that tight, and we've lined up our pages here, and I've got my scissors that I'm not going to lose because it's twisted around my thread. We're going to come in this hole here from the book binding cloth, and then we're going to go in the signature hole at the top. So we want to make sure we're lined up, and I'm off just a tad. Let me get that through. Now this type of craft you could easily stick yourself, so you want to be careful and work methodically. You don't want to pressure yourself to go slow or any certain, go slow so it's not any problem for you, and just methodically work. All right, so I want to make sure that's tight enough. This is pulling a little bit. There we go. All right, now we've gone down through the middle, up from the back, through the top. Now we're going to go down through the middle, through the bottom. I'm a little bit tired. I can't tell. All right, so we're going through this, all these pages. Right there's my needle, and I need to put it into my book cloth right there. All right. All right, now one thing that you want to do is you want all your threads to be tight. This first one, you have to work with your book cloth to get it through. Then we can pin it down to this one, and then keep working with our others. So now we're going to go up through the middle and back through that same hole. But we want to come in on this other side of the thread. So you can see my needle's coming through on the right side of the thread. So I'm going to pull that. I'm going to hold my thread there. And I want to make sure I'm pulling tight. So let me show you the back of the sewing, okay? All right, so now for this one, we're done. I'm gonna cut a little piece here. So I have two tails that I can tie together. I'm gonna pull this off easily. And then I'm gonna tie these two tails around the center thread. Okay. And I usually tie it 2 or 3 times just to make sure. And I'm not going to cut this thread. We'll leave it the length that it is. Okay. All right. So this signature is sewn into the book cloth. The next two, you do have to still kind of play with it. So So nothing comes loose. I'm gonna go ahead and take my paper clips and clip this back one to the binding cloth. Okay, now I've got to put my second one in. So the middle one is this one, and I'm gonna take my paper clips, make sure we stay where we're supposed to with the holes. Okay, then I might get another one. Let's get this one. Okay, so again, we're gonna do the same thing, and I may have enough thread to go through this one. Okay, so what we did first was go down through the middle. Let's make sure my middle's lined up. So let's do that first. Let's make sure we're lined up. So I feel like the page moved a little bit. All right, so I'm through the middle. So now I know I'm lined up, and I want to go through my book cloth hole right there in the middle. So I'm going to pull this needle through like this. Okay. And then this thread, this tail, I'm going to tape down right here. I can pull it a little bit more. I don't like to pull them too short. Does anybody else? Okay. All right. So now I'm ready to sew into, I can go to the top like I did before. So I find my hole and I find the top hole. And I have to go through all the pages. That's why I have to get lined up pretty good. I feel like it's not going through. This book right here is in my way. Is that in the hole? Okay. So we pull that down, and then we're going to go down through this bottom hole. Just push through, and then you want to make sure you're going through the center hole right there. Okay, and just pull that through. So you can see how you kind of have to play with it a little bit. Plus, now you have these extra pages. Then we're going to come back through this center hole. And you can see how easy it is to miss your page, your signature. So you have to kind of work with it. And it's really not too bad. It's just working with all these pages at one time. Okay, let me try to get even. I think I'm not straight. One thing that I've found too, working with signatures and everything, sometimes you do have to kind of play around with them to get them lined up, and it's not easy to show that on the screen too easy. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and snip this. I'm going to pull this up from the page and just tie again with the center thread in the middle of the two tails. That's what I call them. Right, so we're almost finished. So we've got two signatures sewn in to our book cloth. You can see. All right, now we've got to do the last one, and you can see how it gets thick. So we want to line this up, but again, it's sort of hard to do it because you have to play with it a little bit. So again, I'm going to measure some more thread and we'll be ready to go. All right, and then this is my hole for the middle here in my book cloth. So I'm going to pull that through, and then we're going to take the washi tape and hold down our tail. All right, now I'm going to come back up and turn this again sideways for you so you can see. So I'm going to go through this hole. I don't know if you can actually see it, but there's the hole in the book cloth. Should be lined up to my book signature pages. Came in really easily on that one. I think it just depends sometimes how thick your papers are as well. So now I'm going to hold this book cloth in place with my paper clip because I know I'm in the right place with it. I'm not going to have to finagle that top anymore. All right. So now I'm going to come down through the bottom. And that's my bottom hole right there. And I don't know if you can actually see the needle, but it is there. And then my hole is right there. Pull that down. And now I can hold this side with my paper clip. Just extra hands. So now you can see where my stitches are. And this should line up and come right through the middle. So it should. And I feel it. But I feel like I'm not quite there. All right, so, and I'm pulling my thread, so I want to make sure I don't pull that loose with all my tugging. All right, now I've pulled my thread through on the other side. I want to make sure it's tight, and when I cut this, I can tie it off, keep it keep it tight. And we've sewn our signatures into the book, linen book cloth or linen book binding. And then we're going to glue this in. All right, now we don't really need paper clips anymore. We've done really all of our sewing. Now we're going to be doing some gluing. Okay, just want to show you on this side how everything is sewn in right here. And that is our hidden spine. Okay, so now we're going to glue this in. Now one thing you want to make sure is you always did everything right side up, not backwards. Right. Okay, so I'm going to use tacky glue for this. You can use whichever glue you like. I suggest using like something that's strong, like Leans is good. Tombow Mono Aqua Liquid Glue is really good. I've used before. But now what we need to do is create a lot of glue in the middle here, because this is going to have to hold the book, you know, the spine in place, just like you would any other spine. So we're going to put this in. I'm not sure how far over I came. I can always wipe this off. And we're putting a lot of glue in place here. Now you can use actual book binding glue. They do make that. But if you don't have it, this works well. I've used it before. All right, so we're gonna let that kind of get tacky. And I'm gonna go ahead and put a little bit on here as well, just to help hold those in place, those stitches. I put this in. I want to make sure I get it into the center. And that feels good right there. All right, so now I'm going to come down and press this into place. I'm pressing on my pages as well because they are in the actual spine. And then any excess glue, I'm just going to wipe off, because you know that glue does dry clear, but I don't want a lot of extra glue all over my journal. All right. Then what you're going to have are your signatures put in with your hidden spine. Isn't that nice? So before I do too much with it, I want to let this dry. So I'm just gonna make sure it dries in place really well before I start playing with it or doing anything. So we're gonna let that set. And that is how you do a hidden spine for your junk journal. No stitches on the outside. So anyway, thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something. And thanks again, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.